Have you ever sat in silence, staring at your phone, waiting for a reply that never comes? Or felt your chest tighten after a fight? Not because of the words exchanged, but because of the stories your mind whispered afterward? Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe they're losing interest. Maybe I love too much or too wrong. Love, for all its beauty, can feel like a battlefield where the wounds aren't visible, but they run deep. You can walk through a whole day, look composed, even smile, but inside, your emotions are churning like waves in a storm. One moment, euphoria. The next, doubt. A glance, a tone, an emoji, or lack of one can unravel your sense of peace. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if love didn't mean losing yourself in someone else's chaos? What if connection wasn't a gamble of your self-worth? What if there was a way to love deeply, without the fear of drowning? This is where the Stoics enter the conversation, not as cold philosophers disconnected from life, but as fierce protectors of inner peace amidst emotional chaos. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, these men didn't write for the sake of theory. They wrote for survival, for clarity, for living with dignity in a world full of uncertainty. And if you've ever felt the ache of attachment, the confusion of mixed signals, or the quiet desperation of wanting someone too much, you're not alone. But you can learn to meet love with calm strength, to hold space for both your heart and your mind, and to walk through relationships grounded in who you are, not who you fear you might not be. In today's video, we're not going to talk about games or tricks to make someone chase you. This isn't about detachment to protect your ego or pretending not to care. It's about building something far more powerful, a love rooted in emotional freedom, resilience, and truth. We're breaking down how to approach love like a Stoic, with clarity, calm, and confidence, so you can connect deeply without losing yourself. You'll walk away with timeless insights and practical tools that turn confusion into calm and heartbreak into self-mastery. So if you're tired of love that hurts more than it heals, and you're ready to reclaim your emotional power, this journey is for you. Take a moment. Breathe. Welcome to Stoic Now, where strength begins within. Let's begin. Number 1. Love, without chains, the Stoic view on intimacy and attachment. In the eyes of the Stoics, love was never weakness, but neither was it possession. They didn't teach us to suppress desire or deny affection, but to approach it with awareness, intention, and strength. For the Stoic, love was not about surrendering your identity to someone else's affection, nor about manipulating outcomes to soothe your ego. It was about showing up, fully, honestly, and without expectation. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." And nowhere is this more true than in love. Imagine, for a moment, that you're walking through the streets of ancient Rome. Around you, people fall in love just as we do now, through stolen glances, shared laughter, longing letters. But unlike today's world, they didn't scroll through illusions of perfect relationships. They didn't count likes or obsess over response times. They lived face to face, with risk, with rejection, and with the ever-present reminder that everything is fleeting. It was in this rawness that Stoicism found its footing. It didn't promise control over others. It offered something far more radical: control over yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." How many times have you suffered, not from what someone did, but from what your mind believed it meant? A delayed reply becomes a rejection. A neutral tone becomes proof of falling out of love. We spiral, not because of truth, but because of interpretation. And this is where the Stoic path begins, not with them, but with you. Love, to a Stoic, is a practice, not a transaction. You give freely, not because you expect something in return, but because it is in your nature to give. You show up with virtue, with honesty, patience, and respect, not to be rewarded, but because that's who you are. Epictetus taught, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do." It's not about passivity. It's about releasing the illusion of control. You can't control who texts you back. You can't force someone to stay, but you can decide how you love, how you respond, and how you carry yourself when things don't go your way. There's something profoundly freeing in that. The moment you let go of the need to control, you begin to experience love as it is, not as you fear it will be. You become steady in a world of uncertainty. You move from neediness to generosity, from anxiety to presence. And perhaps that's the deepest Stoic insight about love. It's not about the other person. It's about the self you bring into the space between you. In modern times, this might sound strange. We're taught to win love, to keep it, to make sure it doesn't slip away. But the Stoics weren't interested in clinging. They were interested in living with dignity, even in heartbreak. Because real strength isn't found in avoiding pain. It's in meeting it with grace. The Stoic doesn't suppress their love, they refine it. They don't build walls, they build foundations. And when love fades, they grieve without crumbling, because their peace was never dependent on another person's presence. To love like a Stoic is to stand in the storm of emotion and remain unmoved in your core. Not detached, but deeply anchored. And when you love this way, fully, honestly, without demand, you open the door to something most people never experience. A love that doesn't take away your power, but awakens it. So the question is not, will they stay? But rather, can I love with strength, even if they don't? That's what we explore next. Number 2, master your emotional state. There's a moment, so familiar, so human, when your heart skips a beat. Maybe it's after they cancel plans without explanation. Maybe it's after a message goes unread. And suddenly, without warning, your stomach tightens, your chest feels heavy, and a storm begins to brew in your mind. This is where most love stories unravel, not because of what actually happened, but because of how we react to it. We lash out, we overthink, we send a text we regret, or say words we can't take back. In those moments, it feels like love is the cause of our pain. But the Stoics knew better. They knew the mind is the true battlefield, and emotion, if left untamed, can make enemies of even our deepest connections. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It sounds simple, but living this truth requires immense courage, because it asks you to take full responsibility, not for what others do, but for what you feel and how you respond. Let's be honest, emotional chaos is intoxicating. There's a twisted satisfaction in sending that impulsive message, in replaying old conversations, in crafting internal arguments. The mind becomes a courtroom, and we are both the prosecutor and the victim. But none of that brings peace, and it certainly doesn't bring clarity. To master your emotional state doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means understanding them, observing them, holding space between stimulus and response. Modern psychology calls this the amygdala hijack, when our brain's fear center takes over, shutting down logic and flooding us with panic, anger, or despair. But even in that hijack, the Stoic finds space to breathe. Literally, the breath is your anchor. When triggered, when overwhelmed, when about to spiral, pause. Take a deep breath. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. It's not a magic trick. It's a reset. A way to bring your rational mind back online before you act from impulse. Imagine this. You're standing in front of someone you love. They say something sharp, maybe unintentionally. You feel the heat rise. Your instinct is to defend, to retaliate, to protect your pride. But then, in that micro moment, you remember Marcus. You hear his voice, not from some distant past, but as a friend beside you. You have power over your mind. And so you breathe. You do nothing, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. This is the essence of Stoic strength, the ability to choose your response, instead of being a slave to reaction. Emotions aren't the enemy. They're messengers. And when you learn to listen without being ruled by them, you become something rare, someone who can be present in conflict without becoming consumed by it. Seneca warned, "Anger is like a ruin, which breaks itself upon that which it falls." When we lose ourselves to emotion, we don't just damage others, we erode our own integrity. But when we master our emotional state, we become a refuge, not just for ourselves, but for the ones we love. And let's be clear, this isn't about emotional perfection. You'll still feel, you'll still get hurt, but you'll stop handing your peace over to every external disturbance. You'll no longer be the leaf, tossed by every wind of feeling. You'll be the tree, rooted, grounded, unshaken. So next time you feel that wave rising, the silence after a message, the flicker of jealousy, the sting of misunderstanding, pause. Picture the Stoics with you. Hear their calm. Let their stillness become yours. Because emotional mastery isn't coldness, it's composure. And that's the most magnetic quality you can bring into love. Number 3, love without attachment. Picture love like holding a butterfly. Cup your hands gently, and it may stay, resting in the space you've offered, safe yet free. Close your fist, try to grip it tighter, and it will either fly away or die in your grasp. This is the quiet paradox of attachment. The more we try to own love, the more it slips through our fingers. The Stoics saw this clearly. To them, the danger in love was never in loving too deeply, but in confusing love with possession. They urged us to care without clinging, to give without demanding, to cherish without chaining. Epictetus said, "When you kiss your child or your wife, say to yourself, you are kissing a mortal." At first glance, it sounds cold, even cruel. But beneath it lies a tender truth. To love without illusion is the only way to love fully. Because everything, everyone, we love is temporary. Not in a cynical way, in a precious way. When we forget this, we begin to attach our happiness to outcomes. We need them to text back. We need them to choose us. We need them to stay. And when they don't, our world collapses. Not because we loved, but because we built our sense of self around their presence. The Stoic, however, knows you can love someone with your whole heart and still release them. Not because you care less, but because you've learned to care with clarity. You've probably felt it before, the tightening, that fear when they don't respond, that quiet panic when plans change, that urge to chase, to convince, to hold on. It feels like love, but it's not. It's fear disguised as affection. Attachment says, "I need you to complete me." Love says, "I want to walk beside you, but I remain whole on my own." To love like a Stoic is to shift from need to offering, from control to connection, from fear to freedom. This doesn't mean detachment in the modern, emotionally avoidant sense. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about caring so deeply that you refuse to make the other person responsible for your inner peace. You become the open hand, not grasping, not pulling, simply offering presence. And ironically, it's that very openness that creates the space where true connection can thrive. Because no one wants to be a prisoner of someone else's insecurity. No one wants to feel like they're being held onto out of fear, not love. Imagine dating someone who isn't triggered by your silence, who doesn't panic when you need space, who loves you completely, and yet says, gently but firmly, "I will not chase you to prove my worth." That's not indifference. That's power. And that's the kind of love Stoicism teaches us to cultivate. Seneca once wrote, "He who depends on others to be happy is making a wager with fortune." And in love, that wager is especially costly. Because people change, feelings change, life moves. To love wisely is to stop gambling your peace on things outside your control. So what is in your control? How you show up, the love you give, the boundaries you keep, the self-respect you protect. And when that's where your focus lies, you stop chasing the wrong people. You stop begging for crumbs. You begin to radiate something rare, a love that doesn't suffocate, doesn't manipulate, doesn't plead. It simply is. Rooted, present, strong. And if they stay, it's not because you held tight. It's because they chose to. That's love without attachment. That's the open hand. Number 4, focus on virtue, not validation. Have you ever caught yourself asking, do they like me? Was I enough? What did I do wrong? These are common questions in the aftermath of rejection, in the silence after connection fades, or in the quiet ache of unreciprocated affection. But here's the hard truth. Every time we seek validation outside ourselves, we hand over a piece of our peace. And that piece, once fragmented, is not easy to reclaim. The Stoics had a radically different question, one that turns the mirror inward, not outward. Am I living in accordance with my nature? In modern terms, am I being someone I respect? For Marcus Aurelius, life wasn't about winning approval or admiration. It was about aligning with virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. He believed that our true fulfillment doesn't come from what others think of us, but from the life we build, deliberately and with integrity. Let's face it, in today's world, it's easy to measure worth through the lens of others. A text reply becomes a measure of our attractiveness. A ghosted conversation turns into proof of our unworthiness. We adjust ourselves, water down our truth, play roles, just to stay desired. But that game is a hollow one. Because even when you win their affection by bending, shrinking, or pretending, you lose something far more valuable, yourself. Seneca warned us centuries ago, how long will you wait before you demand the best of yourself? To live stoically is to stop chasing temporary praise and start cultivating permanent character. It's realizing that who you are is more important than how others respond to you. Think about it. Validation is fleeting. You might get the compliment, the date, the affection, but what happens the next time silence hits? The next time they don't see your worth? If your sense of self is built on others' approval, your confidence becomes a house of cards, collapsing with the slightest wind of disinterest. But when you live by virtue, when you know you're acting with honesty, with patience, with strength, no one can take that from you. You become someone you admire, someone you trust, and that's magnetic. Because in love, there's nothing more attractive than someone who doesn't need you to validate them. Someone who chooses you freely, but doesn't collapse without you. Someone who walks with grounded confidence, because their worth is rooted in something far deeper than attention. Modern psychology supports this too. According to self-determination theory, true well-being comes not from external rewards, but from intrinsic motivation, living in alignment with your values, your purpose, your inner truth. And when you love from that place, you stop performing. You stop asking, what do they want me to be? And start living as you truly are. You communicate clearly. You set boundaries with grace. You walk away when your dignity is compromised, not out of coldness, but out of respect for yourself and for what love should be. There's a quiet power in that, a calm that doesn't rise and fall with the tides of someone else's moods or whims. Because when you focus on virtue, not validation, you take back your life. You stop waiting to be chosen. You choose yourself. And from that place, the love you give is richer. The love you receive is more authentic. And the relationships you build are based not on illusion or performance, but on truth. So next time you're tempted to ask, do they like me? Pause. Ask instead, am I proud of how I showed up? Did I speak with integrity? Did I love without losing myself? If the answer is yes, then you've already won. Number 5, love in the shadow of time, accepting impermanence. Every love story ends. Some drift apart slowly, like leaves carried by different rivers. Others end abruptly, a slammed door, a sudden silence, an unspeakable goodbye. And even the most enduring ones end eventually. This truth, this inescapable fact that everything we love will one day change or vanish, terrifies most of us. So we hold on tighter. We make promises. We fantasize about forever. We try to secure permanence in a world where nothing stays. But the Stoics saw impermanence not as a curse, but as a compass. A reminder to live, to love, to be present now, because now is all we ever truly have. Marcus Aurelius reflected often on death, not out of morbidity, but out of clarity. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good. And if this applies to life, it applies to love. Imagine you knew that today was the last day you'd ever hold the hand of someone you care about. How would you look at them? How would you speak? What would you forgive? What would you no longer take for granted? That's the essence of the Stoic teaching. Memento mori, remember that you must die. Not to create fear, to cultivate depth. Because when we forget impermanence, we rush. We demand. We cling. We sabotage love by treating it like a possession, not a privilege. But when we remember impermanence, something softens. We stop trying to capture the moment, and we start being in it. We stop living for someday, and we start showing up, fully, attentively, with reverence. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." How much of love is wasted on anxiety about the future, on trying to predict, control, secure what was never ours to hold forever? To love like a Stoic is to open your heart, knowing it might be broken. To say, I love you, not as a contract for permanence, but as a celebration of now. To give, knowing that nothing, no matter how deep, how true, how extraordinary, can escape the laws of time. And that's what makes it sacred. We don't weep for things that don't matter. We only grieve what's beautiful, what's real, what touched us. And yes, impermanence brings grief, but it also brings gratitude. Because every moment becomes a miracle. The laugh you shared under a gray sky, the hand that reached for yours in a moment of doubt, the quiet comfort of knowing you were seen, just once, exactly as you are. These are not small things. These are everything. But they're not forever things. And that's okay. To love without needing permanence is to free yourself from the tyranny of fear. It's to love more deeply, not less. To say, even if you go, even if this ends, I will still have loved you well. And I will not regret a second. Because when your peace is rooted in presence, not permanence, you become unshakable. You stop fearing endings. You start honoring beginnings. You embrace each chapter, not with anxiety, but with awe. And maybe that's the most powerful kind of love, the kind that doesn't promise forever, but gives everything now. So love while you can. Hold gently. Let go when it's time. And carry every love, not as a weight, but as a light. Because the truth is, nothing lasts. But that doesn't mean nothing matters. It means everything does. By now, you've walked through the deeper terrain of what it means to love like a Stoic. You've seen that love isn't something to conquer, nor something to fear. It's not a game of winning or losing, chasing or avoiding. It's an opportunity, a sacred space, to embody everything you've worked so hard to become. The modern world tells us to find someone who completes us. But the Stoic doesn't wait to be completed. They arrive complete. They enter love not as a seeker begging to be filled, but as a giver offering what is already whole. And yet, this isn't a lonely path. It's simply a different kind of strength. One that doesn't shout, perform, or grasp, but one that moves quietly, steadily, rooted in the dignity of self-respect and the clarity of intention. We've learned to pause instead of react, to feel without clinging, to love without losing ourselves. We've remembered that virtue is the compass, not validation. And we've embraced the truth that all love is impermanent, and that's what makes it precious. Because when you live this way, you no longer fear endings. You no longer manipulate beginnings. You show up, moment by moment, with a full heart and steady hands. You begin to attract people who resonate with your calm, not your chaos. You begin to build relationships based on truth, not performance. And even if a love doesn't last, you walk away proud of how you showed up. So here's what I leave you with. Every small shift is a step toward peace and power. Every breath taken instead of a reaction is a victory. Every moment you choose virtue over validation is a declaration. I belong to myself. This isn't just about love. It's about life. Because the same composure that steadies you in heartbreak, steadies you in conflict, in loss, in uncertainty. And the more you live in that space, anchored, aware, awake, the more your presence becomes a light, not for the world to admire, but for your own path to stay lit. Now, I invite you to reflect. What's one moment in your love life where Stoic calm could have changed everything? What's one practice you'll start today to become more grounded, more resilient, more you? I'd love to hear your story, your reflections, your lessons, your moments of grace. Drop them in the comments. Let this be a space not of judgment, but of growth. And if this video spoke to a quiet part of you, the part that's ready to stop chasing, stop doubting, and start becoming, then this is your place. Subscribe to Stoic now for more depth, more tools, more of what helps you stay grounded in love and in life. Because real strength isn't loud. It's quiet. It's consistent. It's built, breath by breath, choice by choice. And it lives in you. Until next time, walk with courage, love without fear. And remember, the fire within you is not here to burn wildly. It's here to burn forever, steady, clear,